And my guests today are Sonal Patel and Arti Ghattaora, and they are living in the Isha Yoga Center in India. And the Isha Yoga Center, the Isha Yoga Foundation, is all about, of all the human pursuits, striving to transform oneself into a higher possibility is considered the most sacred. It is this pursuit that fulfills the purpose of the human form, and it is this pursuit that brings well-being to all life. The basic purpose of Isha Foundation is to inspire, to stoke, and to nurture this innate search in every being, helping them realize the ultimate potential within. And the Isha Foundation is founded by Sadhguru, and it's a volunteer-run international nonprofit organization dedicated to cultivating human potential. So I just want to welcome you, Sonal and Arti, to Kauai. I know you've been here a couple of days, but it's so nice to have you here with us.
Aloha. Thank you.
Yeah, so I know that there's people here who have lived in ashrams and ashrams in America, but we don't get to hear about it very often. So I would love to hear first about what motivated you. Well, I guess we should say, what is the foundation about for you, and what is the ashram like? So this is Sonal.
When I took the program, it changed my life, changed me in many ways. So that's what decided me to go and check the ashram out at the Isha Yoga Center in India.
What was the program?
It's a yoga program that I did, yoga retreat. And then physically, mentally, there were a lot of changes in me. So I wanted to do higher program with Sadhguru. So I went to India, and that's how I wanted to go deeper within me.
Mm-hmm.
And figure out what really life is all about, rather than having just, being just a housewife, living in a family, children, taking care of everything, in the family. I wanted to know what is other than that in life. So that's what drove me to India, to the ashram.
And you're Indian.
Yes, I am.
Were you living in America?
Yes.
At the time?
Yes.
Wow. And so did he come here and you experienced him here?
Yes, I did.
Great. And Arti, what was it for you?
So I think for me, the journey of going within started many, many years ago. If I'm really honest, I think the journey of going within started probably 15 years ago when I transversed through my experiences of various ashrams in UK and Europe. And then I had the good fortune of actually being in India for 1 year, 15 years ago, when I went to many different ashrams. And raised as a Hindu and Indian, the whole cultural aspect of spirituality was already there. And when I went to ashrams, what I felt was everybody was striving to push spirituality from a very doctrine-based viewpoint, which didn't resonate for me. And at that point, I didn't really know what it is that I wanted, but I knew that I wanted something which was going to allow me to go within. It didn't require me to go through several layers of a language or chanting and all this. Just go within and experience a sense of energy. So 15 years ago, I touched the Isha Yoga Center. Somebody said to me, come, let's go to this really interesting temple. And there's a linga there, but they don't worship it the way it is in the Indian tradition. And it's 20 feet tall. And this guru who is there, Sadhguru, is the only guru who's activated the whole linga to its full potential. So it has all the chakras activated, which is kind of unheard of. It's not been done by any other human being. So that sort of resonated. When I went into this place, I went with a skeptic who didn't believe in any of the ashrams of India or any spirituality in India. And he just came along and he said, oh yeah, let's see what this is. And that was the first time I stepped into the ashram. We went in and we sat for only 15 minutes. And something moved me. But even more was this person who was a skeptic was in tears. He wouldn't leave. We had to leave him there. And he ended up being there for 2 hours. And I looked at it at that point and I thought, there's something here, but I'm not sure if it's my time. So years later, when I was pregnant with my second child, somebody told me about Sadhguru. He called me. He was in Tennessee with Sadhguru, and he said, he called me at 3 a.m. and he said, I found this amazing master. You have to check him out. I said, look, I'm pregnant and you've called me at 3. This better be good. So he says, no, check him out. The minute I clicked onto this website and I saw the temple and I saw this man, right, I didn't need to know more. I just went. It was intuitive led, And when I got there, I was heavily pregnant and I did the first course. He teaches a practice called Shambhavi Mahamudra. So it's a Kriya Yoga based practice, and it's a beautiful, very subtle practice, which is a combination of certain pranayama, yoga, and you get initiated by the guru. Initiation really just means that the active principle of the practice is opened up within you.
Oh, that's great.
So it's not just so it's not just a yoga somebody's transmitting, but you feel the active principle. Now, I went on the course I did it, and I remember I was 7.5 months pregnant, and when that initiation happened, my baby in my tummy started doing incredible things. I actually thought my waters were going to break and I was going to have the baby right there and then. And I thought, okay, fine. I'm in the middle of an initiation. I can't open my eyes. He needs to do, I didn't even know what it was, but I just said he needs to do whatever he needs to do within my stomach, and whatever's happening, it's not just for me, it's for this child too. And, I thought, nobody's ever done this to me before. Nobody has affected me. And he wasn't even there physically. They brought in his energy to do the initiation. So that was, again, a new thing for me. I knew energies existed. I experienced them from when I was very small. But to suddenly have this moment where, my goodness, they're raising this energy in this room. I can feel him and my body is responding. And I know what it means to receive an initiation in this lifetime.
Beautiful.
And it awakened something. And it just went on its own organic pattern. And probably about, 2 years later, I was in the ashram.
So you had 2 children.
Yes.
And you had 2 children also? Mm-hmm. And you both at different times decided to move into the ashram. That is a really big decision to make, especially with partners. So you must have felt it was so important to do that. And with you, Sonal, how old were your children?
When I went in 2007, and my daughter was 4.5, and my son was 8.
Okay, so then they went into schools. Can you tell us about the school in the ashram? Or schools?
The basic concept of school is not to impose your ideas into children's head. And the curiosities that children have should stay on. It shouldn't die down. Mm-hmm. So that was the concept of the school. So that's why I wanted my children to go to the school. And I took both of my children 10 years ago. And today my son is high school graduated, and daughter is in 9th grade.
So how did you see, how did you see them move in this amazing school? Because you know of other children in other schools. What did you see as the difference in the freedom that they were allowed, and how the creativity within them, just came out and was expanded?
Basically you're there as a teacher, you're there to support them.
So you were a teacher there also?
Yes, I was. Yeah. And basically, the space and the place was there for children. And, the way we, took on the classes was for them to just go out rather than sitting in the classroom. We wanted them to kind of go outside and explore. We took them out. They looked at the insects, the birds, the trees, the shape of the trees, leaves, texture of the leaves. Mm-hmm. They looked on everything. So basically, it's not that you just sit in the classroom and you learn everything sitting in the classroom from the textbook, but you can also go out in the nature and you learn all these things as well. And that's what the school is about, especially for the younger children. Mm-hmm.
So was it like project oriented as well?
Yes, it was.
As you got older?
Mm-hmm. So let's say, for example, the way the junior school is designed is there's a house. In the center of the house, there's a classroom. And in the house, there's stay area as well. So their rooms are also in the house, and the class is also along with it. So let's say if a child wants to know something about butterfly and he can't get it off of his head, and it's maybe 12 o'clock at night and he still wants to know what it is. So child can still come out in the classroom and he can look at the books or whatever is available to them to see, okay, this is what it is. This is, all the information they want to know about butterflies. They're available to them. So what the concept is, the curiosity just should go on. It shouldn't die down.
It generates more and more creativity and desire to learn. Yeah, and that's what's so great about something like that. It doesn't numb them into, I have to sit another 8 hours for this and this and this. But they do get to learn all those other things too.
They do.
So they function in the world. That's great. Now, Arti, were your children in the same school?
So I have one daughter who is in the homeschool. They call it a homeschool. And I have a younger son who is in a spiritual school. It's called Isha Samskriti. Basically, it's a Gurukula style school. So Sadhguru had a vision for both the schools, and like Sonal very beautifully put it, the homeschool concept was really to nurture the curiosity of the child. And he designed it in such a way that that you're doing that, but everything was given a practical context. I was in the school as a teacher for 1 year, and I was, I'm a physician, and I've never ever worked with little ones from the ages of 6 to 9. And I was asked to do creative storytelling with them, do the English language. And the whole point was, even when you go through the standard curriculum, if you're teaching them, for example, I think one of the things Sonal might remember we did, and actually that was with the middle schoolers, we did this history of England. And we thought, okay, it's a very dry subject. How do we make the history of England exciting? So we gave it a whole practical context. How do we knight people, and how do we dub them? And if we have a banquet, how should it be? So everything that is taught in the school is taken into a practical element. Basically, because Sadhguru has said that what he wants children to remember the learning, not from the context of somebody's written material, but from the practical experience of it, because that's what life is. And if we nurture that, then naturally the child grows up wanting to experience everything. He says, if there is a curiosity about, I don't know, whether, where are the stars from? there'll be a curiosity for that child to go and figure out, how do I need to look at this star, experience it, get closer. And that's essentially what he wanted.
So it's a living practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all the children, like all of us adults who do these practices, they're also doing yoga every day. And one of the other beautiful things in the school and the whole ashram is there is no weekend concept. He says, when you come to the weekend, life doesn't stop.
Right.
And it should be burning within us. Life should burn 24/7. So
that's exciting. What a nice concept.
Yeah.
So just a moment. You're listening to KKCR Hanalei, KAQA Kilauea. It's 12:30. And my guests today are Sonal Patel and Arti Ghattaora. And they're talking about the Isha Yoga Center and their experience in the ashram. Thank you. So what about your experience for, you brought your children there, and then now your experience as a teacher, but you also have practices, you have a life. How has that influenced you? Obviously a lot, but can you maybe give us a little bit of how you changed from before to the present in your thinking?
You break a lot of limitations, basically, because it's the ashram. In the ashram, you're not living with one particular person. There are so many people from so many different backgrounds, so many different cultures, and everybody has their limitations. Right. So a lot of growth happens along with these people. You're breaking a lot of your limitations. And so when you come out, you're there for some time, and when you come out in the world outside of ashram, and you look at these small things that people, have problems in, like, oh, really? Is that really a problem?
Well, do you think because you're in community, this is my personal question, because you're in community, you almost have your best foot forward in a sense, and that actually helps you to drop the way that you might be controlling or use your anger as a vehicle for control or things like that? Or because is there a place for emotions to get hot and fiery, without anyone judging you? Or, I don't know how it is. Does everyone have their own little house, or how does it work?
We're one big community.
So is it many people living in one house, or?
No.
Okay. So everyone has their space.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do.
So how do you deal with something like that? Well, let's say a husband and wife get mad at each other for whatever.
For some reason, it doesn't last that long, maybe a minute or so, and they're like, it's as if like nothing happened. It's just normal. So,
I think if I can interject, Sonal, the space is designed in such a way that you can't hide. So if you have underlying issues, they just come out. And once they're out, somewhere, because of the energy of the space, you have to resolve it there and then, and not carry it forward.
Right.
And if you don't get it, it comes again and again and again until you get it.
Well, are there people to support people when they're going through this, or is it Sadhguru because he's, your guru? I don't know. I'm just wondering what would happen if someone couldn't do it on their own.
The temples are an amazing space to resolve your issues. The temples are consecrated, and they've basically been consecrated by Sadhguru. Sadhguru's main talent or gift, or I don't know how to put it, but what he does, he enlivens things. Basically, a stone can become a living deity or a temple. That's what he does. And this gift is infused in the temples in such a beautiful way, using a lot of alchemy. There's copper, mercury, and granite, and many elements utilized, and lots of very intense kind of downloading, which he does. And the places have been built to hold and host energies in a specific way. There's a lot of sacred geometry. And the way the whole space is aligned, when you look at it, where we sleep, where the school is situated, where we eat, it's all aligned. And we have a mountain. This is a mountain that when Sadhguru became fully enlightened, he saw this mountain and he went crazy looking for it. When he found it, he knew this is the epicenter of where this whole space is going to be built. And everything has been built around a certain angle. You know, there's like 11 degree, you have the temple, etc., etc. So now, when you think about how the whole space is made, when you talk about your emotional sense of being, the upsurge of emotions that come along, whether it's you don't like someone, you don't want to be told off, or whatever it is, it diffuses very quickly. You just go to, we have this also very beautiful water body. It's 30 feet into the ground. There is a mercury linga, which is solidified mercury, which has been charged in a particular way. And it's in there's a body of water which is roughly up, most to an average person, it would be about waist or chest high. Mm-hmm. And it's in a copper tank. It's huge. And you go and step in there. Something just moves. Yeah. And he says that when we go through these things, sometimes it's not necessary for you to talk about it.
Right.
It's better for energy to take care of it,
right.
to diffuse it completely. So often in these situations, our management strategy would be you either go and be silent somewhere, or you go into the temples and be silent there, and you let that energy take care of it. And, you know, it's funny because Sonal said earlier that when we now step out into the world and when we look at people's problems and their dilemmas, and you often look at it and you think, really? Really? I mean, it's really not worth losing your head over these minor things, because how you're damaging your system is so profound. It really isn't worth it. Mm-hmm. And this sense of engagement, this sense of lack of, dropping your judgments about people, because you yourself, I know, and I don't know, Sonal may agree with this. When we judge somebody, then the very next minute you are doing exactly that which you are judging. So it shows you, hello, you really think you're smart, you're doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it gives you clarity, it declutters you in a huge way. When you get that level of decluttering and you step back into the world, you think, wow. I meet my friends and family 5, 6, 7 years later, they're still doing the same thing. And I look at them and actually I feel a great deal of compassion for them. Yeah. I think, really, I can see where you are, because I could have been there. Mm-hmm. I was fortunate this master came into my life and plugged me out of that situation. And today, my deepest gratitude to Sadhguru is that he took my children. And what's happening to our children? My God, Sonal can also share beautiful stories. Our children, oh my goodness, I can't even believe they're mine. Actually, they never were.
Right.
Yeah. And the perception, the attention to nature, the love, without calling it love. Mm-hmm. They notice people. My son would tell me, look, Mom, look at that woman. Doesn't she look really elegant in that sari? What would a 9-year-old know about how a woman should look elegant in a sari, right?
Yeah. Well, now, so now your son is graduating. He's going to be going out into the world, and he's been in the ashram for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be such an amazing and beautiful exploration for him, and also for you to see how does he take this teaching and this way of living into the world. I mean, for you were an adult choosing. For him, he was a child coming into it. So I'm going to really want to talk to you in a year, see how he is. So how is that going already?
See, we wanted him to, after coming out of high school, from there, we wanted him to take a year off and kind of explore and see what he really wants to do, rather than getting into college and not knowing what he really wants to do. And something that he does, he later on in his life may not like it. Mm-hmm. So we kind of wanted him to explore before he gets into college in different areas to, kind of figure out certain, clarities should be there for him to know, okay, this is what I really want to do. It doesn't matter whether he is an artist or a chef or whatever he wants to do. He should be happy with what he's doing, not what we want. We want him to make that decision and move on.
Now, isn't this a little bit rare for Indian parents? Because
Sure.
from my experience is, and only from the experience of my friends who are Indian telling me about their parents, is that, you know, a lot of things are planned ahead and they really push you into being a doctor or a lawyer or something really professional. And then, you know, picking the partner for them as well. So you were very open-minded.
Yes, and I don't want, you know, him or my daughter to step into our shoes and do whatever we want or we did, and we don't want them to do what we did.
Right.
See, they should make the decision on their own. They should know what they really want to do, rather than us wanting them to do something.
Right.
So he just came back from Africa.
Wow. What was he doing there?
He went camping, you know, and he went to Uganda, where he volunteered for 2 weeks in the tribal school. So he's just come back, and it really is somewhere I feel that he's become sensitive to life, you know, and aware of the situations.
Well, that's really amazing. I think that's really important to be able to do service. And that doesn't happen a lot for a lot of people in schools in America. I know there are private schools who are part of the school. Like we had Kula School here, and they had to do community service, and they had to do like 36 or 42 hours a year. So they had to go and help people, whether it was cleaning up trash or working in the hospital or whatever. But that isn't what happens in public schools here. So it's so wonderful.
Actually, you know, merit to the school, because part of what the school also teaches, because it's a residential school and it's 24/7, those kind of skills are brought in. Like Sonal has spent a lot of time teaching children how to cook. Their children are taught how to fix their own bikes. They learn how to milk a cow. They also go out, you know, trash is a real problem in India. They go out and pick up trash, get bags, and understand how we need to keep our environment, nature. So all of those skills come in. So the idea is that when the child comes out of school, they should have an awareness of everything, how to fold their clothes, what it means to, you know, take care of cleaning your own area, all of these things. So it's a complete kind of skill set that they come out with.
That's great. So I have a question, and that is about what is the Isha Yoga Foundation? What are their, like, I know you had told me at home that they had a number of projects. So what are the projects that that Sadhguru is promoting?
So I think one of the things he wants to do is he wants to bring spirituality in the environment on an equal par, because he you know, the way he has given us the experience of spirituality, he says, you know, it gets nurtured from also where you are. So when you extend your antenna of spirituality, it touches the trees, it touches the waters, it touches the very land we come from. There should be some gratitude and appreciation from where it comes from. He always talks about how this body is composed of the earth and we return it back. So it's our duty to understand fully that engagement between the earth and this body. And when you return it back, you should return it with a certain level of honor, which means it should be better than what you received it. So
that's a really good way of looking. I've never actually heard that.
And he, you know, and that's where he says, you know, even the practices of Kriya Yoga and the initiations that he gives us, he said, the idea is I want you to refine yourself so that when you return this, the instrument should be really clean when it returns back to the earth. You received it with all your karmic backdrops and conditioning and limitations, etc. But if you want to really honor yourself and you really want to attest yourself to a path of spirituality, then this is how it needs to be. He's just spent a month-long travel across India to clean up the rivers and save the rivers of India, because they're drying up, because the consciousness of saving the water, the rivers, the very fabric of what provisions a lot of tribals and villages with nourishment is being dried up, and nobody's taking care of it. And he says, if we don't pick up the pieces and actually take responsibility of these things, how is the planet going to function?
So can you tell us a little bit about why it's drying up? What's happening along the banks or in the river that's causing that? Or is it just because there's not as much water coming in?
On the banks of rivers, there are not enough trees.
Have they been all cut down and used for ceremonies and just to keep people warm? And
people are moving in, more and more people are moving to, closer to the banks of the rivers, and there are no trees left. So, and the trees are where, it holds
the land, right?
Yeah. So what he's trying to do is save the rivers by telling people, look, you need to, plant trees, both sides, 1 kilometer on the stretch of 1 kilometer along the banks of the rivers. So we can see, the water throughout the year can be flowing in the rivers. And farmers, instead of growing crops, they should grow trees, like fruit trees. So they have income coming in at the same time, the trees are also there. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's trying to do, having awareness, basically, for people to know that, look, this is what we need to do for future generation also.
Right. So are people contributing and plants are getting bought and planted? Is that what, he's bringing awareness, but is there also something else behind it?
Yes. He's basically addressing for each of the states, because he's covering from the southern tip of India to the north. And what he has done is he's connected with all the lead politicians of those states and bringing them in. A lot of celebrities, everything are coming in to really raise the awareness of these spaces. Wow. And the idea is that at each place he's negotiating with the chief ministers of that state to say, I'm not here because I just want some publicity over this. No. Where's the initiative for growing the trees? How are we going to do it? This is not a project which is just going to happen overnight. It's going to require maybe 20, 30 years of active service to save the waters. And if we don't restore this, we are going to have dry lands, basically. Right. Farmers will not have water. Communities will not have access to clean water. And the population is growing. So, and where is the question of spirituality in people's lives? If those basic needs are not met, how are we going to do that? And that too on a land which, if you've ever come to India, it resonates. There is a pulse on that land. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, so many masters have walked and so much work was done on it. It seems so sad and redundant that human beings on a very basic level are not able to resurrect what originally once was. Right. The very essence of our life.
So he's not a regular guru that sits and meditates and people come to. He's an active. So he's young. How old is he?
61.
Oh, so he's very young. And he's been awakened, you said, since he was 30.
Yeah. About 35 to 40 years ago, right? Roughly.
20, when he was 25.
Yeah, 25. So very young. But you also had said that he was, obviously on this path before he was awakened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, tell us a little bit about how he does what he does. Because I saw, if you go to the website, there's a website called Isha, ISHA Foundation.org. Mm-hmm. And if you go to the website, you can see videos of him. You can see things that were written that are question and answers. And you can see the organization and what they're doing. And he's like on a motorcycle. I saw him with a helmet and shades on and a dark jacket and pants. And I thought, wow, he kind of looked like he could have been like a, not a Hell's Angel, but I mean like, he's like a Harley guy on his motorcycle. And that, even though he's, how he speaks, I'm sure he is who he is all the time.
Yes.
But it was so interesting to see that. So how is it different in India? Like, for other Indians or other masters to have him be the way he is? Is there any controversy or interest?
Inevitably, the way he's a master who doesn't, he says that when I became enlightened, what happened to me and how it came to me is what I'm dispensing and transmitting. And that's my work. I am not going to go and read the texts or whatever. I'm going to give it to the masses the way it came to me.
Right. So experiential.
Yes. And he says, whatever happened to me can happen to every one of you. And he's also very clear that I don't want you to become codependent on me. I'm just like a doorkeeper. I'm going to open the gateway, and I'm going to tell you that this is a safe gateway to go through. And then I want you to go out there and experience the rest of it yourself and become whoever it is that you need to become. So in those kind of contexts, and the very way that he's so contemporary, you know, rides motorbikes, loves fast cars. I mean, my goodness, if he's in a car, you better stand out of the way.
or be driving next to him.
Basically.
Be in the passenger seat.
Exactly. You know, he will come out on a field and play frisbee with you. And I'm telling you, he will make you run around.
I saw a picture of him leading people up the mountain. And you could see that he was like going, and they were trying to go.
He does a annual trek to Mount Kailash, where he takes usually groups of 30, 40 people at a time. And trekking doesn't mean just some nice little path. He makes you trek.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you basically, everything that you do with Sadhguru is intense. It's nothing short of intensity. I mean, even the programs that Sonal and I have both gone through, we've done all the programs that Isha's offered. And believe you me, there is not a single program that you do that you don't come out thinking, oh my goodness, what happened to me? What was I before this?
Oh, that is saying a lot.
And
you're able to hold on to that and live your life with that.
No going back. It's like the only analogy I have is that he opens a door for you. You walk through it, you turn around, and you can't see the door anymore that you came from.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So if someone wanted to know more, is there a way to, because I would want to call and say, I'd want to talk to someone. I mean, I'm talking to you, but like for someone who's listening today and they want to go online and they want to learn more. I know he's got YouTube, so there's tons of that. But like if you wanted to go to Isha Yoga Center, what would you do? Would you call up? Do you make a reservation? Do you show up?
There's a website called Isha Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
You just, go into the website and it gives you all the information that you need.
It does.
Including the programs.
Okay. And I saw the one, the inner engineering, and you were talking about that. Maybe you could, we have only a couple minutes left. Maybe you could say what that is so someone, because that's the newest type program. What it is.
The inner engineering program is a 21-minute program, a 21-minute practice that you do, but you have to take the program and get initiated into that. The programs happens here as well in different states. It's a teacher-led programs you can take, and it usually is 3-4 days program.
They're also offering the same inner engineering program on an online basis, so you can follow the program over a period, I think 5 days online, but then you need to go for the initiation. And usually that is also, I think that is also somewhere on the website when these things happen. And there are local centers, like in Tennessee, we've got the ashram. And in most of the states, quite a lot of the states in the U.S., there is a teacher.
Okay, I was going to say, is there someone to go to, or do they do like workshops?
They do. And we also teach Hatha Yoga as part of the practices that you get. So in terms of the whole bouquet of offerings that we have, inner engineering is the sort of the first program that you would get into to understand the whole concept of Isha. And then after that, there's a lot of advanced programs, and you would get to know about them. And it's a very simple, when you think about a 21-minute daily practice, it's not really a lot out of your day.
Now, does Isha mean something specific?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell us what it means?
Isha is, it's like almost like the formless perspective of Shiva. And for us, or at least for Sadhguru, Shiva means that Shiva is an energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the form that we always engage with. And that energy form took physical form in the version of Adiyogi. And he's consecrated this energy of the Adiyogi. And basically, in view of his experience and his perspective, the Adiyogi was the first guru who transmitted yoga on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That happened about 15,000 years ago, when there were 7 masters who walked to Mount Kailash because they were drawn to this really profound energy. And they sat near Mount Kailash. They didn't know what they were sitting in front of, but they sat there. And they sat there and meditated with it for 84 years.
Whoa.
And then this energy form on Mount Kailash sort of thought, okay, there's someone who's giving me a bit of attention, I better reveal myself. And he revealed himself in a form which is the Adiyogi, and he transmitted yoga to these 7 people. And these 7 masters were then, after a certain period of time, and there are places and spots on the Himalayas where these transmissions happened, and Sadhguru has taken people to these spots and allowed people to experience what that transmission was like, what the energy was like. And he said that's where yoga first took birth on the planet.
Well, that is a great story to end with. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
so nice to have you, and that I really appreciate that you came in and sat with us and talked to us about the Isha Yoga Center and the Isha Foundation today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful rest of your trip on Kauai.
Thank you very much. Mahalo.
Aloha.